There you
Lyndon
go.
Williams, good afternoon. Good evening, I'm sorry, it's late, really. Was it 7 o'clock? Yeah, you well?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
That's good. How's this troublesome time treating you? What does your existence consist of?
Yeah, probably the same as you, really. I mean, I do spend a lot of time in the house. Luckily, I can work from home on the laptop. Most of my work is back in Wales, so I would do it on the laptop anyway. But yeah, it's fairly mundane. I mean, I've had the same picture outside the window for the last 12 months, but we're just having an extension made, so it's given me something else to look at. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
good.
and I try to make my office look as attractive as possible. So it's interesting with my.
What is your day job, Lyndon?
Well, I I do consultancy work for Disability Sport Wales. I mean, I pretty much a couple of days a week just doing that. Work with about 14 different sports, and it's helping them develop inclusive policies and programs. And it's really exciting stuff. It's good to see sports really sort of buying into the inclusion thing. And really, that's pretty much what I do. I'm kind of like semi-retired, really, you could say, because the rest of my time I put into doing stuff with the BWF on their para commission, also Badminton Scotland's disability committee, which I'm on, and then when I get the chance, I like to. Well, I was doing quite a lot of one-to-one coaching probably about 4 years ago, but to be honest, I kind of no, I would say I lost a little bit of spark for doing lots, and I felt like, and I
Has it
just,
always been one-on-one, Lyndon?
yeah, I was doing stuff, as you know, from speaking to Julie Hogg, that,
Yeah.
a fair few years ago, I was doing stuff at the academy, which is great. But my back problem, which, I can tell, I could bore you for that for days,
Go for it.
that kind of caused me to finally stop doing lots of stuff like that. I had an operation. I was saying that in Wales, I'd gone through, God knows how many years, and I'd never broken a bone or had an operation. And I came to Scotland. I'm on my third one now. I severed my finger cooking with a knife, and I like my cooking, so that nearly ended that
Like
career.
properly severed it. Properly severed
Yeah,
your finger.
severed my blinking finger, so the tendons were gone. Then I had my back operation finally, which was a result from
What's
years.
wrong with your back? What is it? What's wrong
Well,
with your back?
I was trying. Funny enough, I'm doing a bit of history with Welsh badminton. I was actually trying to find out when it all started, and I reckon my back problem started at an under 15 Wimbledon Open game against Steve Butler and a guy called Mike Parker. And I can't remember it to the day now because it got flicked, and I remember having these spasms thinking. And if I look back, I had lots of bouts.
Oh, sorry, go back. You flick served and you just went back.
You
went back for it.
And I went back and something spasmed, my back sort of locked out, and I thought, whoa, that was a bit dodgy.
That doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but I played for years and years after. But it kind of got to the stage because I kind of went. I finished school at 18. I went to college for 2 years, and then in those days, the term was called we went full time, which basically meant that we went on the dole, really.
Yes.
But I went full time and I moved to Essex, which was like the hotbed of badminton. I mean, Morton Frost was there, Darren Hall was there, Billy Gilliland was there, Scottish players, and a number of English players. So it was a strange time because we had no coaches down there, albeit that Ray Stevens, who used to coach, fantastic bloke and really helped us a lot. But we really didn't have any coaches down there. We kind of made it up as we went along, and in them days we kind of went for quantity rather than quality. I mean, the training we used to do was ridiculous, and then expected to play on the weekend. We didn't understand recovery. I mean, stretching and core. I mean, there were probably words that weren't invented then. It was crazy.
Let's go back to the question. Let's go to the question. So let's follow I want to follow the whole thing. Let's follow it through because we're moving forward, right? That's good. So your full name first of all.
Oh, it's Lyndon John Williams. Good Welsh name. It's Lyndon as well. That's important.
Lyndon John, yeah. Williams, good. And your age, Lyndon? Sorry, also, where does the John come from? Please ask everybody that.
I'm not 100% sure where the John comes from, but I can tell you a story about Lyndon.
Go on.
I've got an older brother, and when I was due to be born, they thought I was going to be a girl. Right. So they'd already named me Linda. So when I was born, just to help my brother, because he was only 3, so he wouldn't get confused, they picked the nearest name to Linda, and I think the president of the USA at the time was Lyndon Johnson, so they just went for Lyndon, and he might have even gone for the John bit of Johnston. Wow. But yeah, that's where we got Lyndon from. My brother loves telling that story.
They could have done a boy called Sue, the old, couldn't they?
That's right. Yeah.
What age are you, Lyndon, please?
56 now. Yeah, it's
just gone, or you've been there
October. 57 in October. So
yeah, it's all good, isn't it? Where are you from originally? Your home area, would you say? Then where is you're obviously Wales?
Cardiff. I was born. Whitchurch, just north of Cardiff. I was born, and pretty much lived there. Well, I lived there until I moved to Essex when I was like 20. Yeah. So pretty much went to uni, went to college there. As they did in them days.
Brothers and sisters? Brother, you said?
Yeah, elder brother, Paul. He's 3.5 years older than me, but looks substantially older than me. I'd say at least 10, 15 years older than me.
You would.
That's just in case he's watching.
Does he play, or did he play?
Yeah, no, he actually played a good. In fact, I would say early doors, he was a better player than me. He was more talented than me. He played Wales under 23. As they used to have in them days. They used to have, and he played, I think he played once, I think it could have been against Ireland, I think. But I think he stopped then, come 19 years, and then he just started working and whatever. And he used to play a little bit, but now he's more of a runner now. So
he's not even a hobbyist player now.
No, he doesn't, and I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's because it's changed. It's changed. I mean, there was a time when me and him would just go and have a hit down the centre, but because I don't actually play anymore, I mean, it's unless I've got about 3 weeks off afterwards to recover. But yeah, I mean,
why is that, Lyndon? Is it? Do you not have it in you to take it easy?
I think the problem is, what badminton's like. The problem with badminton is it's one of those sports that actually uses every part of your physique, and especially the core, and your central bit, and it's. The minute you start to do anything, and even if you just pick up a shuttle, for God's sake, I mean, my back used to go picking up a shuttle. So you think, the minute somebody puts it over, that's why my backhand was so good, because I never went round the head. I just took everything in the backhand. but yeah,
that's a nice problem. I wish I had a good backhand, because I was thinking about it. Backhands are so impressive. If you know anybody that's got a good backhand, everybody looks at them and says, "God, he's good." And all you need is a good backhand. You know what I mean? I've always had a rubbish backhand, but I'm good at going around it.
Yeah, no, it might have been true. It might have been something to do with it, but I would say that when I was really young, my dad took me to the Albert Hall to watch. I think it was a Friends Provident Masters,
right?
And it was the first time I saw Fleming Delphs play, and that guy just put him. You can keep your Taufik Hidayats. This guy had the best backhand bar none. Yeah. And I remember he played Morton Frost, and in one rally, he had 3 backhand smashes, and the third one he actually made the thing bounce, and it was just unbelievable. I went, oh, I quite like that. I want to do that. And to be honest, I mean, we went back, and me and my mate, and all we did practice, we just playing backhands. We're running around your forehand, playing backhands. It was just.
I trained with briefly. I trained with John Quinn. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, John, yeah.
And he's got phenomenal backhand. I remember his backhand and thinking he was actually the reason why I gave up badminton for 10 years, because I was going at coaching with him, and I stopped and I thought to myself, I'm never going to be as good as that. so I might as well jack it, and that's what I did. It's terrible, isn't it? It can actually be a disincentive. But he was coached a lot. He was going before school. He was going after school.
Yeah, no. I knew going well because obviously he played with Neil Cottrell, and Neil Cottrell ended up playing for Wales. Yeah. When he stopped playing with Quinny, he sort of moved to Wales and played. But I've known John, I mean, for ages. Yeah, he's become one of those really good coaches that keep moving about, but I think that's good because you need to stay fresh. You can't stay.
Definitely. Steve Butler was chanting Jordan Hart. Don't you have that conversation? He's in Poland with her. Yeah, he's still there.
That's there you are. There's Steve Butler sticking his hand out of a tut-tut. Thailand Open, 1982.
Nice one, nice shout out. I like that. I haven't actually had him on here yet. He must have watched it because he's seen Jordan. He must have watched it. Yeah, he must have. Okay, let's go on. So your brother Paul, 20. He used to play, went up to 23, and then went. So what age were you when you first played, Lyndon?
When I started, and I know it really well, I started when I was 6. So that means I've been in this sport for 50 years, which really doesn't sound like right, does it? Because obviously I looked really young, but I was 6. And the reason I started it was my dad was stationed in Malaya at the very end of the Second World War, and he played in Malaya outdoors like they used to, and they still do. I know.
Samuel Laysan, did you hear that? He's in Samuel Laysan interview. He's in Malaysia.
Yeah. So when
he's in Kuala Lumpur, he is.
Yeah, I'm not sure when my dad was stationed there. He keeps saying a word called Johor Bahru was something I always remembered, and you can find it on the map. But anyway, when he came back, he started playing, and then he started a junior club where he was playing, and they used to. Obviously, my brother was quite keen to go down, but for some reason I didn't. Apparently, they used to have to take me sort of kicking and screaming, and I really didn't enjoy it one bit. But obviously, that changed after a while, and so I started at 6. My dad formed this club, and it was going for years. And my dad was a coach, and he was also an umpire, and he was a pretty good player himself, But
was he coaching young juniors, very young kids? Was there? Do you remember there was a lot of you going? Was there?
Well, yes. I mean,
was it at school or what was that? Mm-hmm.
Very, very little in school. My school being Welsh was very much rugby and cricket in the summer and everything, and athletics, football, which I loved. So I did all them as well. I played for cricket for Wales as well, under 16, which was great. Yeah. In fact, it was a toss-up because I actually really enjoyed both.
Did you?
And it was okay when it used to be winter and summer, but then all of a sudden everything starts getting all year, and they said, well, you got to make a choice, which is fair enough. So.
What age were you then when you had to do
that? Well, I played under 16 for Wales, so it was about when I was 15.
Yeah.
We were having trials. I mean, my claim to fame in cricket is I opened the batting with Hugh Morris, who used to play for England, and Matthew Maynard. I played with them, albeit they went on to greater things, and they were substantially better than me.
But they chose cricket. They chose cricket.
Yeah, and I bet they can't play badminton either.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. They've got a rubbish backhand. I've seen them. Their backhand's rubbish.
Rubbish. But I think with juniors, there was a lot of. I think at that stage it was when, in Wales, for instance. I mean, I don't know what it was like before. There was quite a lot of activity going on. I know we had a juniors club league at that time, and we used to play against a lot of the churches. And I know you had a churches league up here, didn't you? In Edinburgh, there has been for. But I mean, it was a good. There was a lot of juniors about. It was.
What's it like now down there? Does it still exist, or what's it like?
Yeah. No, it's like anything. I think badminton is. I mean, we love the sport, so we don't have to, like preaching to converted you. But it's up against lots of other things, lots of things to try and, compete against. And I think, the governing bodies, Scotland, Ireland, England, Wales, they all have to keep trying new things, and they have to try and provide a service that, some people are just not interested. They want to sit home. They want to play another sport. That's fine, but. I look at what Welsh Badminton is trying to do now, and also in Scotland and Ireland, you see all the different projects, and you think, that's pretty much what they can do. They just got to keep trying to create new opportunities, new ideas for people to play. And at the end of the day, it's a great sport.
Yeah,
it can be played by anybody. As you know from me working with a disability lot, we've got air badminton now, which when we get the chance to go and play a bit more outside, that might be another thing that takes off. And it's. Yeah, I mean, it's just got a lot of competition.
Yeah, of course. So why did you start playing? Was that your dad then, do you think?
Yeah, I think, my dad was the one that forced me.
What was your dad's name? And is he a league player himself? Does he play?
Yeah, my dad had a great Welsh name. He was one of seven brothers. His name was Victor Garfield Williams.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a cracker. And
nice.
and my mum had three sisters and three brothers, so I've got cousins all over the world. I don't know half of them, but there's.
And was your dad unique in playing badminton, or was it a family of badminton players?
No, my mum never played any sport whatsoever. In fact, I would say, only thinking about it the other day, I think she only came to see me play twice in a hall, because her job was looking at. She looked after the house, she looked after our kit, she looked after everything. And I remember I played a tournament once, and an unknown parent came up to me and said, just like to say to your mum, your kit's very white. She must wash it really well. I thought, well, my mum would love that, so I went and told my mum, and she was.
Did you listen to Douglas Walker's interviews?
No, I haven't listened to Douglas.
Well, he's talking about his wife, and he's got two sons. He's got Emma and Eric, I think it was. And I said, "Oh, what was your wife like? What does you obviously played a lot of badminton. You coached a lot of badminton." And she said, "Oh, she just wanted to be at home with the kids, so I was the bad guy taking them away all the time."
All right, yes.
Yeah, very good. Do you remember your first racket, Lyndon?
Yeah, I have it behind me.
Go on, what is that?
Oh, it's a belter. I still have it. It's unbelievable. It's a Dunlop Max Ply, and it's a bog standard Max Ply. It's not a fort or under 5, and somehow this has lasted, and it literally is. It's got probably the same gut in it, but yeah, I mean, it's the one thing I've managed to keep.
Yeah,
I don't know. I wouldn't have wanted to keep things when I was like 9 or 10 or wherever it is, but yeah, I managed to keep that one, and I reckon I could still play a decent game with that now.
What reckon do you think? What tension do you reckon the strings are about now?
Well, I think you'd be lucky to get £20.
Do you think you could get that restrung?
Yeah, you could. You could.
You?
I wouldn't hold out much for the frame though, but
yeah, you wouldn't go.
Quite good, to be honest. The stringing in it, I'll be honest, but yeah.
Very good.
No, it's great racket.
Tell me about clubs. First club you played at. What age were you then? When you first from the kind of 6, you're obviously very young and first tried it. When was it you were kind of you start playing a lot, like twice a week, say?
Well, we used to play. Funny enough, the club which was started up my dad's club, which is where I played.
What was it called? Can you tell me?
Yeah, it was called Celyn Badminton Club. It was CELYN.
Badminton Club. Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny. In one shape or form, it's actually still going now. It changed into Cardiff Badminton Club, and then it just recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, amalgamated with another club, as a lot of clubs had to do, to keep the numbers up.
Of course.
And I can't, for the life of me, remember what the new name is, but I stayed loyal to that club. Met many of the international.
When did you start going now, Lyndon?
Sorry.
When did you start going there?
It was 6. It was the same club where I was.
When you started, yeah, really.
Yeah, same junior, and it was a nice club. We played at this it was a territorial army centre.
All right, yeah.
And it had 3 courts, and it was painted black cement on the floor.
Wow.
Not too much room behind the court, but enough.
Wow.
And what used to happen is every time there was some kind of anything to do with the army or something, and they just had to go in lockdown. So there was loads of times we'd be playing, and then suddenly some army guys would come in and just say, "Right, out." And we go, "Okay, off you go." But it was great. It was a great hall. It was quite unique.
You used to go with your brother, did you, back then?
What's that?
You used to go with your brother.
Yeah, my brother and my dad.
Yeah.
But of course, in the early days, we didn't appreciate why people were so fond of playing matches at our club, and it's because they used to have a bar in the thing that was run by the army. So apparently, it cost absolutely nothing. So guaranteed, every time the team that played that came along, they'd always have a big supporters, and we were thinking, "Well, it's great. We must love it."
Isn't it? The bar.
It was tremendous, and it's still there to this day, but it's not used for badminton anymore.
So tell me about your development, please. Tell me about when you started playing and how you got to be when you got to play a lot. Like, so when you used to go with your dad, you just went, and you're obviously a beginner, and there was a club going and you were so young you couldn't play then. So yeah. When did it become a thing where you could go along and compete, I guess, with other people?
Luckily enough, they had 2 tournaments that had an under 14 and under 16, under 18, yes. And there was one in Cardiff and one in Bridgend, and it was kind of like people used to play the one, then play the other, and it was the 2 tournaments we used to play. So my first tournament I played, and it's funny because I've actually, the one thing I did keep of my past, I actually kept a book of every tournament I played.
Love you, yeah.
Yeah, and I looked, and it was 1979. I played under 14 Glamorgan juniors with my brother in doubles.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Good.
I would have been 9. He would have been 13 and a half.
Yes.
I don't forget it because we actually got to the final. Well, let me say he got me to the final. So we got to the final and we were playing.
So what age were you then? So he was 14. I guess you were like 12.
Well, I was 9 and he was 13 and a half.
Wow.
He was good. I told you he was good. Yeah. And we were playing, and I remember somebody hit the shot and they hit me in the mouth. And I remember it hurting quite a lot. And I remember my brother sort of put his hand on my shoulder. He says, "Are you all right? You all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." And then I sort of went behind him as he went to serve, and I burst out crying. And he could hear this like bubbling behind him. And he's like, and then he started having a go at me. He said, "I thought you were okay." And I was streaming my eyes out. I think we lost, but But yeah, I think I only played with him twice more because he couldn't put up with my wins.
He was too strict. He was too strict for you. That's so
Crying.
funny.
But yeah, we
So
used to play
that was great.
two tournaments.
Did you play singles, Lyndon, as well?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, as a junior, I mean, you tended to play everything, and you know, at junior level, I had some success at singles. Used to love mixed and as well. Yeah, just you know, you went slowly through the ranks, and I think we because it was a good environment because we had like I said, my dad would take us to see things. Like I said, I went to see the French Brother Masters. You know, we went over to an exhibition, I remember, in Bristol, where they had like the top England under 23 team: Tim Stokes, Duncan Bridge, Karen Beckman. You know, to name Kevin Jolly, which I've got plenty of stories of that boy. But and you know, these sort of things inspired us, and we had this weekly. Then we got invited to this weekly thing that was it was called a Cardiff Squad on a Friday night, where all the better players went, and it just sort of snowballed.
What
with
age
that.
were you then when you started going to that? Do you remember?
Probably only about 11 or 12.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was quite a lot going on, you know, and there was plenty of tournaments to play. You know, I remember. So we Chris Reese, my doubles partner of many years, we kind of came together very, very luckily, just by chance actually, just before an under 15 tournament. And then obviously we stuck together, and we kind of played. We went and played all the English tournaments and everything. We just played under 15, the under 16, and of course at 15, 16, we ended up playing senior international for Wales. I mean, we made our debuts in Ireland. Never forget that. At 16, there was a bomb scare. That's why I never forget it. So yeah, we were in knocking up. So we were scared anyway because it was in Enniskillen, which, as you know, there was a bomb in there some years after. But loved playing against Ireland and as a junior, and we were knocking up, and Bill Thompson, who was a policeman who also played for Ireland, he was their number one. He came in and said to us, "Right, out you go," and we just thought, "What's that?" So we were marshalled back to the hotel, and we were saying, "Well, you know, what's going on?" They said, "Oh, there's a bomb scare, but it's okay." You know, to a 16-year-old, and we were going.
Oh, what?
They said, you know, they used to get people that used to phone up hoaxes and say that, but you know, we just said, look, you know, if Bill and the rest of the Irish team and Joe Kincaid, who was their manager at the time, if they say it's fine. So we went in, and funnily enough, we went in, and we've never played so fast in all our lives, because the first thing we would do is get out of there as soon as we
could. You could. Listen, I'm going to stop this and start it again. One second now. The recording only lasts 35 minutes, right? And then so it's give me a warning of 5 minutes. So I'm going to go out. I'm going to stop the meeting, end it, and come back in again. So you're going to get it closed just now. So you'll just rejoin it, right? Yes, so that was Ireland, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
First cap, and we were just 16, I think. And yeah, since then we just played, and of course then we were.
So what age were you then when you went over there? What age was that? 16.
We played our senior debut at 16. Me and Reese, in fact, the team we had to play Ireland senior was pretty young as well. Angela Nelson, who played did she play number one singles? She was like same age as us. And we were without our legend Phil Sutton, unfortunately, because he was injured, as he always was, and I'll rib him about that anyway. But yeah, I mean, and it was great. I mean, over the years, I have really fond memories of playing against the Irish, because we used to have every year we used to play each other in a one-off international. In later years, it developed into a triangular with Scotland. No, we used to play Scotland in one-off internationals.
Yeah, really.
And then it sort of turned.
What was that like? Was it all of you getting on a bus and getting on how did you get there?
Ireland, you'll laugh at this. We used to be sponsored by Cardiff Wales Airport. Right. But we never flew from Cardiff Wales Airport because they never went to where we wanted to go. So to go to Ireland, we had to go all the way to London to get a flight to go back over to, which always made me laugh. You know,
you were sponsored by them.
Cardiff Wales. Yeah, they used to fly to places like Mallorca and all that. And of course we never had any tournaments there. But they sponsored us for 4 or 5 years as a team. But they must have got something out of it.
Do you remember the shuttles you used first of all? Was your dad on feathers, or what was he like? Yeah.
Pretty much, club was plastics to start with the old Carltons, but which were great. But I remember playing nearly all the tournaments, junior tour, RSL tourney number ones, which were which were, well, I mean, standard, made in Britain, best shuttles you could make.
Yeah.
You know, they were just phenomenal.
Remember how good it was getting a new plastic shuttle out?
Well,
Remember, it was a luxury back then. Do you remember being at club and saying, "Wow, it's a new one"? Wow.
yeah, well, it's still the same now, isn't it? With feathers, if you know, we're trying to ration it because people can't just, and you know, it is. I think maybe taken a little bit more for granted now than maybe we did. But
Just I was talking to somebody that said they were only allowed one shuttle in the game. Who was? I think it was Julie Hogg. It was in a match. They only allowed one shuttle, and I was like, "How does that work?" No matter how bad it was, you're only allowed one shuttle.
There's a couple of tournaments in France where you actually take your own shuttles, and you start the game by taking 2 of yours out and 2 of theirs. You know, and then what you do is you spin to see whose shuttle goes first. It's amazing how long those shuttles last.
Yeah, we do that in the leagues. We do that in the leagues then, where you take your own tube, and then I think you're only meant to have, it's meant to be a tube per match. So like you take 6 and they take 6. But what you tend to get is the clubs like Western and Nomads will take Yonex AS40s, and then all the student lot they tend to use Yonex.
Yeah.
You've never heard of that brand? So anyways, that's what you get. All sorts. I'm trying to think who's the. Do you know what? It's been so long since I played badminton, and that I can't actually remember what the Yelex is a big one. I know I shouldn't knock out brand. Yeah. I know they're good. Yeah, they're good. They're good. Yeah, Ashaway.
The other thing that RSL used to have, they used to have like a junior tourney, and it used to have like, instead of a smooth cork base, they used to have like a chamois cork base. And it's strange again. I used to collect shuttles. I mean, like, what's the matter with me? I'm just like a hoarder.
No, I've done that. I've absolutely
done 179 different makes of shuttle, and I just kept them in boxes in the attic. And one day I just thought, what am I doing? I mean, and then you go down to the Badminton Museum in England, you know, and I know the guys well, and they've got all the shuttles anyway. So I'm thinking, so I just gave it to them and said, there you are. They probably found 3 or 4 that they didn't have.
Have you heard of a thing called a thermodome? Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
No. Hold on a second. Say that. I'll show you.
A thermodome.
I think it's called a thermodome. Maybe I've got the name wrong.
Just while Martin's gone, he's actually got some nice fish in the tank there.
There we go. It's not called a thermodome. It's a humidome. Have you heard of a humidome?
No. Good God.
It's got plastic beads in it, right? And you soak it. You soak it in a sink, right? And they absorb, the gel in there absorbs, and it becomes the cap for a tube of shuttles, and it adds moisture to the shuttles.
Oh, good God. Good God, that makes it. That makes a lot of sense. Back in the day, we used to do the old trick.
The kettle.
We had a steamer.
Yeah.
To take all the bottom of the shuttles and then just put it over a steamer. And then the other way was you can still do it now. You just take the top off the tube of feathers, put a damp cloth in it, and just put it and just lock the top on.
That's the advanced thing. It's called a humidome.
Wow.
They cost about 20 quid. They absorb water and it adds moisture. It works, by the way. It is. I swear by it. It works. It adds moisture. They don't crack. Feathers don't. If you've used it, if you've kept it on for a while, sort of gone off point a wee bit. If you keep it on the tube for a while, the feathers. If you took a new feather and you did that, it would snap.
Yeah.
Once you've used this, it doesn't snap. It goes straight back in again. It's really good.
And when you hit the shuttle for the first time, does spray come out of it?
No. It's pretty good. It's the feathers. The shuttles are heavier, noticeably heavier. I've done a lot of testing on it, and it really works. It makes them last longer, and the shuttles are they tend to last. The shuttles.
That's really good. That's really good.
Worth a shout for sure. I think it was quite expensive. I actually got them from Andrew Ironside, who we plugged. Did I think Oliver for a while? Whenever you bought a racket or shoes or something, you got a free one kind of thing with them. They're pretty good. So remember your first coaching? That's back to the questions.
Yeah, it would have been with obviously with my dad and stuff. I mean, I've been trying to think of the coaches I've had, and I can safely say,
Let's start at the beginning. So your
yeah,
very first coaching, like, do you remember what he taught you, for example?
I can remember learning the high serve.
Good.
That's about it, I think.
Good. Yeah.
I think that was important. Yeah, I think. But to be honest, I remember going to squads. Never had one-to-one coaching. That was kind of like, that really didn't happen much back in them days.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, went through squads. It was my dad was helped with his new club. Tony Tullett, who I'm still friends with now. He helped me at the start, and he reminds people that he helped me at the start as well. Tony's great. Looks like the trouble is I look like him now because I'm as bald as he is. But
good.
Yeah, and a lot of coaches at the groups, but it was always in group sessions.
Was it? When did that start? So when your dad taught you, obviously that was 6 or so. When was your first coaching? Do you think, as you remember it, as in a group session coaching?
Yeah,
that wasn't your dad.
79, probably when I was about 8 or 9, something like that. When we started going to regular.
Was that school as well?
No, I mean the funny thing was because I played and I was okay. They made a school team so we could play in the Welsh schools and the county schools, because there was a few other guys there as well as played. So we played a little bit at school. But funny enough, Whitchurch, my school, which is the biggest school in Wales, it really didn't have any. It had a couple of badminton courts in the Dutch barn, concrete and all that. But no, and funnily enough, I enjoyed school and the school teachers, and I still keep in touch with my old games teacher because my school's famous because it had Sam Warburton from it, Geraint Thomas, the cyclist, and Gareth Bale.
Wow!
So we're all on the same. I've managed to get onto the same wall as they have, although mine's down by the men's bogs down the end of the corridor. But so I'm on the wall. I'm on the wall. So
why was that? Was it a good physical school, or was it a good discipline for sport? What was that?
Yeah, they love the sport, but there's a lot of pupils. I mean, it was double headed. It was over 2,000 pupils, I think, across the two schools. All the teachers were ex-rugby. Rugby. I mean. I think Dudley Jones, who was the first, he played for Cardiff, so it was a big thing in Wales. I mean, people say that I got funny ears, and people always think it's because I played rugby, but no, I was just born with them.
So was it like PE and things, when it's so physical, when you did PE and stuff, was it hardcore? Was it a battle? Was it really pushing yourself?
Yeah, but I loved rugby. It was great. My dad wasn't keen on me playing rugby, especially when I was kind of improving at badminton, because I'd be playing rugby matches in the week and have a tournament on the weekend, and they'd be petrified that I get injured. But it's like anything. You go into these things. If you're going to get injured, you're going to get injured. But
I hated rugby.
I don't think I ever did.
It was always muddy and it was always snowing. Yeah. I hated rugby.
I got injured playing cricket more than I got injured playing rugby. That's for sure. I knocked out several times playing cricket, and of course. Also, the other problem in them days, not all the time did you wear a box, because you used to. And of course, after you got hit there once, then you always wore a box.
Oh my God! Yeah. So your first tournament, was that the one under 14s? Did you say?
Yeah, Glamorgan Junior.
Glamorgan Junior.
And I kept the medal from that because it was a run-up for donkey's years, and I had a fit one day, and I just threw out all my. All I kept, it was one of those things. You used to have these little plaques used to win, and they were really. And one day I just chucked them all out. I kept obviously my European stuff, but everything else went. And the other stupid thing I did is I'd kept a program from literally every tournament I'd been to, and they went on the skip as well. And I regret that more than the medals,
Yeah, isn't it terrible? The things you do as you get old, you think, what am I keeping that for? And you do something and you think you can't go back. It's ridiculous. No, I've done things like that myself. I think you just do. I think everybody does that, Lyndon, to be fair.
I know. I mean, I'm big into the history now, and I'm always a little embarrassed that Scotland, Ireland, and England they've kept their history really well, and I was always a little embarrassed in Wales that we didn't seem to be that bothered about it as much as we should be. But
do you think
we've tried, and funny enough, lately Natasha at Welsh Badminton, she's finally sort of got hold of me, and we've said, look, let's try and piece it together, because Wales are one of the oldest badminton nations in the world, founders of World Badminton, IBF. So we have got a really good history, and over the last month or so, we've been finding some fantastic stuff out about Welsh Badminton. So that's I've been doing that a lot. photographs here, but it's good. I mean, I love Ireland. I used to amaze me, all their Ulster, Leinster, the history of the guy is fantastic.
So you still go down to Wales a lot. I mean, you're living in Edinburgh and you're still going down to Wales. Do you still work for the Welsh Badminton? Is it? Was the Welsh Badminton? Is it like Scottish Badminton? It's like Welsh Badminton? Yeah. Is that what it is? Yeah.
It's called Badminton Wales now, although I think it's still Welsh Badminton Union Limited, but it's Badminton Wales, and they're based in what's called Sport Wales. And I generally go down I was going down maybe every couple of months to do my disability work with other sports. Well, funny enough, one of the sports I work with is badminton, which is great because it allows me. I mean, I worked for them for 18 years, and then moved up here. But it's great to work with the new guys.
What's that? When did you move up?
2007. In the December of 2007.
Why?
Well, long story, but my partner lives in Edinburgh. She's a research nurse, or she was. She's a nurse, and it was quite easy to fly up and down. So we did that for about 4 years. And as I said, I've been working for Welsh Badminton for about 18 years, and I think I'd well past my shelf life of working with an organisation like that, because I think in badminton you have to be fresh, and you have to, and whereby I felt we were still doing good stuff. There was we had a little bit of friction between me and Sport Wales, shall we say. We had difference of opinions, and I just thought, what,
it's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
It's probably best for both
Can I
of
ask,
us.
what's your partner's name?
Elizabeth.
Liz, good. And so she, how did you meet her?
Well, there's another story. I started an old boys club, because when I stopped playing, I wanted to keep in touch with a lot of the lads. So we started this old boys network. There's 23 of us now dotted around the world, and
right.
We used to come up to those that could. We used to come up to Scotland because two of the guys Scottish internationals, so a junior. So we used to come up, and probably every May bank holiday for like a long weekend or any excuse really. So I met her at one of those weekends, and then we sort of commuted.
Chatting and that was it.
Yeah, commuted, and when I moved up, I honestly thought I would do something else.
Did you?
Because I thought I'd been doing it for so long. I thought, well, maybe it's a chance to do something else. But then I moved up, and of course, I had Julie Hogg's husband Russell. He got hold of me and said, "Oh, do you want to do a bit?" Okay, I'll do a bit of that. And then Julie got hold of me and say, "Can I do something at the academy?" And before I knew it, I was doing. And then I thought, well, do you know what?
Yeah.
I'd been stuck behind a desk for quite a while in Welsh Badminton, and I thought I had a chance now to do some coaching.
Some out and in the community, getting absolutely right. And it's good credit to you. Your most successful. So going back again, what was your main event? Were you always your singles? When did you stop playing singles, do you think?
Probably under 18. I mean, I say doubles became my main event early doors. But I won. I think I won the under 16 nationals, and I lost in the final the under 18 nationals twice. But I kind of got hammered, twice. But
who was your competition?
I remember losing quite heavily to Mark Richards, a guy called Mark Richards in the final of the Welsh. Now he was another brilliant player for Wales. He won a European scholarship, but he stopped pretty soon after that for various reasons that people in Wales will know, which I won't tell you about now. But
Google.
Yeah, and then I played doubles with Chris, and we were obviously competing against people older than us. We were playing I think we won the under 18 nationals when we were 15. We played for senior Wales, but we were really lucky because living in Wales on our doorstep in England, there's so many good tournaments just a drive away. So Chris's dad, my dad, in the car, off we went. And nothing more than like 4 hours away, and we were playing hundreds of tournaments. So it was dead easy.
And it's really good to be pushed by. It's good to be pushed by. I was interested in speaking to Jordan about. Obviously, she's been the best in Wales for a long time at ladies singles.
Yeah.
And she's kind of. It always interests me when somebody's the best and how did they get any better. And the same with when you are the best. But the common theme is when somebody's had a peer, somebody, your brother has obviously driven you to become better. So when you play with your peers, you're not quite as good as, but maybe almost as good as your brother, and you're always chasing him. And then you move from, like Kieran talks about, moving from your brother to somebody else, and then always having your eye on. That's what you got. We were talking about that yesterday, just having your eye on it, right? Him next, and then him next, and then him next, and that's what drives you, isn't it?
I think that's absolutely right. Even though we were playing, of course, we went and played all the junior events in England. But when we went, say the year we won the Junior Europeans, we weren't seeded. And the reason we weren't seeded is we weren't playing any junior events. We were only playing senior tournaments in England. So we were playing against, and in them days, all your county tournaments in England had your top English players, Andy Gurd, Mike Tredger, you name it. They were all playing these things. So we were playing against people like that. Didn't play the European.
And you didn't even get any ranking, Mm-hmm.
So we were unseeded, and but it was funny. We didn't get seeded, but 3 weeks before we actually beat the guys in our one junior tournament in Holland that we beat in the final, but it made no difference. But it was funny because where we were positioned in the draw, it was almost like they put us somewhere because they knew we might be. We might cause a few upsets, so they placed us in the draw, and we had a great run through. And the best thing about in the quarterfinals, we beat Chris Andrew, which is Rachel Andrews' father.
Oh right, yeah, really.
Rachel Andrews who plays for
that's
and
right.
We played Chris, so we obviously have a joke about that every now and again.
Can we talk a little bit about you moving from? So, were you a professional player from? Did you become a professional player?
Yeah, no. Well, as I said, in them days, we used to call ourselves full-time players. Going full-time was a class, but basically we were unemployed. When I left college at 20, that was the decision. My partner was already living in Essex. He'd gone, Chris. He went like a year before. So I went straight after college. I did design as a student.
Did you?
Straight down, and we were unemployed, and we had a contract.
Did he have a job?
No. We
in Essex. Did he have a job in Essex when he went over there? Did you when you joined? No.
I mean, literally, it was like this thing. You tried to immerse yourself in this. You had a chance to be full time. Now, whether at the end of the day it was like one of those things. You didn't think about, am I going to make a living out of this? It was just an opportunity. I can play full time. So we went down, and it was a real eye-opener for me. First time I'd ever moved away.
So going back, Lyndon. So when you said we can play full time, where did you think the money was coming from to pay for your rent or whatever else at the time?
Well, they can't get me now because I've been. It's been too many years. But we signed on the dole, so we had so much a week, and we also had some of our rent paid for.
Rent and all that, of course, yeah.
But the things we did, funny enough, I did have a couple of small jobs while I was down there, which just to pay the odd thing, and just because, but nothing really,
Yes.
I worked in a shop for a bit,
You must have been thinking at the time, I really could do with some money for whatever, but are you just thinking, I'm playing badminton all the time, so I don't really need very much. As long as I've got enough for my rent and I've got enough for food, that's all I need.
We had a contract off Carlton at the time, which would have been okay. It was like £2,000. Mine was £2,000 per year, which was quite good in them days. And a few bonus things.
About 150 quid a month or something, right?
Yeah, something like that. And if you won the nationals, you got another 500 quid. So there was a little bit.
What's that?
To be fair, Welsh badminton, and I think a lot of people forget this. They weren't set up to fund individual athletes like this. They'd already had, success with Phil Sutton, who got to number 10 in the world, who was kind of our peer, who, he really inspired us to do it. Without Phil, we wouldn't have done that. Really? He'd already moved to Surrey University. So he kind of, it was because of him we did it. And it was the same. They pay all our tournaments abroad, pretty much Welsh Badminton would have paid for them. And
we travel and accommodation and everything. So was there a big squad of you that went over together? Was it organised by Welsh Badminton at the time?
No, at that time when we played internationally, it was generally just me and Chris doubles and Phil Sutton. We got joined by a few later on. Generally the women, and we had good female players in Wales, but to be honest, slightly older than us, had jobs and things like that. So it was in that era where the majority of people used to play were in full-time work, and there was only a small number of people that were playing full-time badminton. Of course, now it's a completely different story. So I always find it difficult to compare eras, like people say, would so and so have beaten so and so, and it's it's different.
No, it's hard. It's hard. I'm interested in the commercial side. I'm very interested in people becoming players and becoming professionals and knowing these young people coming through. The question of Jordan's been really really interesting.
You can imagine, Marty, can't you? You become good at something and you get an opportunity to play it full time. You can go on the international stage. You can play in these big tournaments. I mean, at the end of the day, 99% of the players who do will not get a job in badminton out of it because there just simply isn't enough jobs around. And not everyone can be a coach, but it's something they can do, and they'll not forget that. I mean, I never made any money. I think my biggest payday was we lost in the final of the Scottish Open one year, Scottish International, the big one, and we were playing well, and I think we won 200 quid, and that was like my biggest.
All the professionals talk about club money. Did that not exist then?
Yeah, club money. Club for playing for clubs, you mean?
No, club money.
Oh no, I don't know that.
Yeah, if you listen to it, club money. All the professionals, like all these professionals, like all the Scottish national players, they get club money, so they get for being in a club abroad.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah. There was the Bundesliga.
What is that? So what is that?
Well, it's pretty big now in a lot of countries now. France, for example, they've got a really good.
Is that a commercial league then?
Commercial league. Yeah. The club that I always go to in the south of France, Aix-en-Provence. And if you ever want to go to a tournament, go to the south of France, go to this one.
Yeah.
You don't have to play, obviously, but they have a first team, and they're allowed so many overseas players, and they'll be paid.
For being
there. So a lot, and they also in different countries, different divisions will pay different amounts. But and you just have to fly over, play your match, fly back. They pay for everything. You make a bit of money. Again, you can't retire on it and everything. But again, it keeps
the money turning over. And that's the question is when somebody's, I guess you're gonna have. I think it's like anything, when you leave school, it takes me a long time to think back to leaving school, but I'll think back to leaving school and, okay, I left and I go and work in bars, I go and do whatever for probably 2 or 3 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And all that time, a lot of my friends are probably at university or at college, right? So they're not about, so they don't really know. And then I guess, so I'm not really thinking of money or thinking about investment or thinking about property or what career I'm on or anything. Yeah. So it's almost like becoming like that. Like, so, these players that are continuing to play through without going to university are like that. So they're not really feeling like they're missing anything. But I think it's when people when their peers get to 22, 23, and you look nowadays, somebody starts a job on, let's say 20 grand a year, there must be an element of it. They look at that and go, my God, I'm scrambling about living at home with my mum and dad, going through, getting out, whatever. Is this going to be a career? If I go and leave this and use that degree to do something else, then I can actually get an income and start paying for my house and that kind of thing. So I'm really interested in trying to how to commercialize it, because I'm in sales myself. And that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing.
I think, BWF do a really good job, I think, of marketing the sport. But we got to face the fact it's huge in Asia. The people, and let's face it, top European players, they're on good money. The Danes are, they are world class and everything. It doesn't maybe filter down as far as actual prize money as maybe obviously people play tennis, but I think I think a lot of the time is people see this as an opportunity. If they can get funding, it gives them a chance to do that. Life experiences playing, and badminton's a great sport for that. You learn so much just by doing that. And at the end of it, you'll come out hopefully a person that's got a bit more intelligence, a bit smarter, a bit savvy. The
thing that interests me is that I was actually talking about the head of sponsorship for Danish badminton last Thursday, and I was chatting to him, and Jesper is called. I'm going to have a chat with him actually. But he's got 5 guys that work for him that match players to sponsors in multiple pursuits, right? Badminton's not big enough, right? So he's got an agency where he finds businesses that with commonality with players for different pursuits, and then so he'll match them up. Obviously, takes his commission, whatever, and it provides funding. So I was talking to him about the principle is everybody talks about Denmark and look how big it is in Denmark, look how good the players are, look how good their sponsors are, la 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 la. But it almost perpetuates the problem. You need money to get good players, but you need good players and popularity to make good money. Inevitably he's talking about, when they sponsor players, they want to know how many people are going to see that player, wearing what they're wearing, or what kind of presence, what they're going to make out of that person, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
that's what
Denmark's
interests
unique, though,
me.
isn't it? Denmark is unique. It's a small country. Was it 4.5 million or something like that?
Yes.
But badminton is one of their national sports, which makes a huge
Just out of
difference.
curiosity, they're struggling this year. It's not great.
Yeah.
With COVID, he says it's very difficult because they're not getting presents, right?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, but it is a unique year. But I think for them, somebody told me once. She said the greatest example is if you walk down the street in Denmark and you say to someone, "Have you played badminton?" They'll say, "Yeah, of course I have." You know, and I think it may only be 4.5 million there, but numbers game, everybody's played it. Sure, they got history, and I think history. That's what I like about the history. There's a lot to do with history. People want to emulate what their great champions did in the past and all that. And if you think Denmark were one of the first countries, that started IBF, so they've had champions since day one in this sport. They're not just come along at the end; they've been there right the way through. So their history is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I remember loving it. I always loved it, and I always loved it as a sport. I loved playing. I couldn't get enough of it, and but it's that thing of, I don't see when I look at the Carolina Marin documentary. And you see her at the beginning. There's a lot of footage of her when she just started.
Yeah,
she was just like everybody else, right? With a racket, couldn't hit it, and she's just really, really determined and invested in it. And she became, just by being invested, and got a lot better. I spoke to Kieran yesterday, and he scrambled his way through to becoming a really good player, and really through determination and grit became a great player. And without a huge amount of technique, the technique, by his own admission, came later. It was quite interesting.
If you could calculate in cost how much it would have cost to get Marin to where she is, to try and duplicate that for the squad, which we generally do in the UK. We got to have a squad of players, and Kirsty Gilmore is a great example of somebody who's just come out of that pack and has made the leap towards. But again, if you put a cost in how much it would have cost money, I mean, governing bodies, Scotland, Ireland, we can't afford that. They haven't got that sort of money. They're not set up for that sort of money. And I also think it's so hard to win, major titles in badminton, because the across the world we got brilliant players, Asia, so it's difficult to get those world titles. And of course, because of that, you don't get the exposure, then you don't get the big funding from UK sport. And like you said, it perpetuates, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's just right. Anyway, I think that's great for today. I think we'll come back and have another chat. I think I could talk to you all day, to be honest.
I am terrible. I know that.
It's all good. It's all good. But the idea of this is my logic of this, it may help people piece things together, remember things that come back, and you'll watch it back. I do it myself. You watch it back and you think, God, remember that name and remember that name.
Yeah.
And then the next time we chat, you will have something else, and then somebody else will have added to this, and then before you know it, it just goes. Anyway, so it's interesting.
It's good. I've listened to a few. I got a few others I'll listen to, because it is good. I love listening to Peter, because the Bake Off, because that was just great. I mean, I tell people, I said, you know what, I actually know someone famous now, genuinely famous. You forget your badminton people that I know is famous. I actually genuinely know someone who's famous.
Well, can I tell you the funniest story ever? I don't know if you're on Instagram as well.
Yeah, I am. I generally do.
Well, so Peter Sawkins, he's probably watching this. Peter Sawkins obviously had a conversation with me about badminton, and I was asking him all about baking. And then finally this week he had a call. He got contacted by Paddy McHugh, right? So finally a professional badminton player phones up a guy that loves badminton. He loves badminton, right? What do you think? What do you think Kirsty Gilmore asked Peter Sawkins about badminton? What's the best scone you've ever made? And I thought, that's just typical. Finally, a baker gets a question. Oh my God, I'm going to be interviewed by Paddy McHugh. And question from Kirsty. What about your scones? I loved it. I love that. He must be saying. Paddy actually messaged me after. He says all he wanted to talk about was fucking badminton. Excuse my French.
That's right. Yeah. No, he's a lovely guy.
Right, I'll let you go. We'll speak again. All right, take care. I'll need to crop out that. My normal videos say not for children. When you save it says not for children. Now I'm going to say it's not for children. Right. See you later. Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Lyndon. Great to meet you.